And welcome to another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, Detroit Tigers podcast. I am Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, a man who is big-brained about small ball. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
Doing all right, Kieran. The Detroit Tigers have won a playoff game. Not so long ago, we didn't know if they were going to be in the playoffs. This team has plenty of problems still, but this is a reason I said not to count them out. They have Tarik Skubal, and Tarik Skubal pretty much put them on his back, carried them today. Still a tight game. Still had to work out of some crazy scenarios. Still saw a lot of guards ball, but here you are. You need one more in the next 2 days, and you're going on to Seattle.
What if I told you the 2025 Detroit Tigers won a playoff game in which the starting pitcher tossed 107 pitches? There were no pinch hitters, and they called for multiple bunts. What year is it?
And you walked Austin Hedges twice.
Well, no. That would make sense that they would lose the game, that they would walk Austin Hedges twice. But like, you won a game.
Yeah,
and
they won the
AJ
game
Hinch
where they did all that.
AJ
Yeah.
Hinch Tigers team won a game with a starting pitcher that tossed 107 pitches, and there were no pinch hitters, and the call for multiple bunts. Like that is an example of, like, in the playoffs, kind of like busting your what's the word? Like busting your preferences, like busting your tendencies.
Yeah, you're treating the game a little bit differently. You're not managing for the 162 anymore. AJ Hinch even kind of mentioned, like, one reason you saw me handle Tarik the way I did through so much of the season was for moments like that. Because today there wasn't going to be much of a restriction on him. 107. He'd only crossed 100 pitches, I think, 3 times in the regular season. His high was 105. The Tigers bunted 5 times all year.
Insane.
And they bunted twice. Today. One of them worked. One of them won them the game. I mean, amazing.
Like I was amongst the Guardians faithful sitting in the stands, and I was like, like this is not something the Tigers do. Like they like bunting. Like it was just like crazy. And then, Skubal was excellent, and we'll get to him in a second. But it was the quintessence. Like during the regular season, we hear a lot about win today or whatever, and that plays itself out in a like true fashion, but not like what we saw today for the reasons that you just described. But we've already gone too long without like Tarik Skubal was amazing today. He was pounding the strike zone. He was efficient. The only thing the Guardians could do was either just put Austin Hedges at the plate, and then they, 8 pitches later, you would have 2 walks, or just Baltimore chop yourself into a situation. That's really all that Skubal allowed. 7.2 innings, 3 hits, 14 strikeouts. And of course, the 1 run, again, that came off I would say a fluky play, but that's guard's ball, so I'll give him credit for it. It's a guard's ball play. That was one of the
position pretty well all year, except for when he's playing the Guardians. Granted, some really weird, tough situations.
Right.
It's not fielded his position all that well.
But it wasn't even like he fielded it wrong today. It's just like it was like just enough to where it was like too much of a play. But by the way, after they score the run there in the 4th inning, what happens? Skubal's got to field his position, and that's when he does the glove flip to Torkelson to end the inning and squash the rally. That was as big a moment as any of those strikeouts, in my opinion, because again, that was kind of his taboo the last time he pitched on that field. But anyway, like just general, like Tarik Skubal today, amazing. What did you think watching it, talking to him, AJ afterward? I mean, that was an all-time performance an all-time performance we just witnessed.
Yeah, this is a guy who lives for the big games, man. There's something about the way he is wired that is just built for this moment. Like the right level of intensity, but also the right level to stay calm in the midst of chaos. He talked about, doing breathing exercises out on the mound, something he started doing earlier in his major league career. He's known, everyone knows he's approachable on start days and blah, blah, blah. Dylan Dingler said, like, well, he was kind of all business today. There was an air about Tarik Skubal that was pretty special. I've been thinking about this, just athletes I've been around and had the fortune to cover, and a guy, Tarik Skubal and Baker Mayfield are two I've covered, and two guys who a little bit similar stories, the underdog, the overlooked, and two dudes who are just competitive as hell, and like you just never rule out. I mean, I didn't necessarily have to analyze Baker Mayfield, but I didn't know if he would be a successful NFL quarterback. I mean, he was a Heisman Trophy winner, but I was like, I don't know. I don't know if he's built for it, but I just wouldn't count him out. And in a way, that's how you feel about Skubal, who's an even better pitcher than Mayfield is, a quarterback. And it's something about the way they're wired, man. It's something you can't necessarily just look at them and scout. I also thought Dylan Dingler called a fantastic game, mixed in Skubal's slider a little more than he normally does, called some creative curveballs, like just kind of kept the Guardians hitters at bay, off balance. No one can hit the fastball. No one can hit the changeup. But just to see him call that game a little bit differently, especially with a team he's seen, twice in 2 weeks, I thought Dingler deserved a big hat tip today too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll get to a little bit of a Dinglerism from the fan base a little bit later as I recount some of the funny things I heard from the stands. A good crowd today, very respectful crowd. I want to say that the Cleveland faithful. So kudos to them. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get to a little bit of the offense, which got off quick and then held up enough. But first, a word from our sponsors.
October baseball is here. The pressure's on, the lights are brighter, and with DraftKings Sportsbook, you're right there in the middle of every moonshot moment. DraftKings Sportsbook delivers the intensity of October with player props, live in-game betting, and odds that can change as fast as the ball flying over the fence. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get paid out $200 in bonus bets instantly. I use this, and you should too. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FAL. It's code FAL to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
All right, coming back here, I'm verifying this real quick. Gavin Williams had made 3 starts against the Tigers this year. That is the most he had made against a single opponent this year other than the Royals. So obviously that makes sense. So there's of course, an element of this series is there's a familiarity aspect to everything. And to start the game, Cody, you have a one pitch out, and then Kerry Carpenter gets a single, gets a second base on an error, and then Torque, I think it was just 2 pitches each at bat after that, gets the RBI there. It really did feel like early on they were, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but it felt like they were trying to attack Gavin Williams as opposed to like find your pitch or whatever. Maybe that was just errant thinking, and then they kind of worked out there. But it did feel like, because he was cruising, they give up the run, but he was cruising for much of this game. And then they started to work some at bats. You still have a couple examples of not doing well with runners in scoring position, especially in key parts of your order. Like that is still a thing that happened today. But to start out the game, because you're there, I was there. There's a lot of excitement and energy at Progressive Field. It's, they're coming off this awesome run, division championship, this team that they've dominated, for the better part of a month, if you just go by standings, and then head to head. And Kerry laces a hit, and again, gets to second base because the Guardians didn't do a guards ball thing. They made an error there in right field. And then Torque just kind of gets right underneath that ball to get it over the shortstop head, and then Kerry scores. So Skubal, as great as he was, he gets to go out there with a 1-0 lead, and that held for a while. But man, like it was an example of a couple guys in a couple situations that came up big, and that's what you're looking for in these playoffs. Torque and Carpenter, right there from the jump.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the at-bats against Gavin Williams were interesting. First two hitters, two pitches, 2 outs, but I think it's because it was fastball and sinker. I think early on they were trying to lay off and not chase the curveball. Carp hit one that was over the middle. Williams has pretty much only thrown torque sweepers, so I think he knew a sweeper was coming. But I think it was kind of trying to not chase as much. And then after the first couple innings, it devolved into, no, still a lot to chase, also taking a lot of called strikes. They weren't able to lay off the curveball. So, look, did a good job getting on the board, got enough base runners to scratch across the second run, but I still think by the middle innings, their plate approach had completely just dissolved. 19 swings and misses, 16 called strikes. So they were caught in between. They were still chasing. Never at any point did it feel like someone was really going to connect for like an extra base hit in the late innings. I didn't feel that way, at least. So I'm still concerned about that, Kieran. The Tigers, they were a really good offense for the first half. I always thought they're probably more of an average offense, but lately they've been a bad offense. 24th in on-base percentage in the second half, striking out at the third or fourth highest clip in the league. They've become a bottom third offense, and you have to get some of these guys to wake up and do a little bit more because you don't have Tarik Skubal on the mound every single day. You're facing another guy tomorrow in Tanner Bybee who's taking your lunch money recently, much like Gavin Williams has. You're going to have to get some big hits. You're going to have to be able to slug a little bit. And more than anything, you're just going to have to, up and down the order, have a better quality of at bat. There have been just too many empty calories at the plate lately.
Yeah, I mean, the Gleyber Torres, double plays with runners in scoring position and then not being able to.
And that's going to happen, but that pitch was middle, man. That was a pitch that should have been crushed, and Gleyber rolled over it.
Yeah. I mean, again, like there's definitely, a win's a win, especially in a 3-game series, but was there meat left on the bone? Absolutely. Let's get to the decision to bunt there with Z-Mac and to get to get what turned out to be the game-winning run off Hunter Gaddis. That was the first pitch. That was very intentional, and it was a good bunt, but I didn't think it was like watching it live. I'm down the left field line, so my vision is a little bit skewed. I thought like an aggressive first baseman, like a Gold Glove caliber first baseman, might be able to get to that ball and maybe have a play at the plate if you really wanted to. You have Noel there, so that's not really a thing. But the fact that that was the call for McKinstry, a guy who's got like what I don't have in front of me, but like what a 760 like OPS or whatever, that was the play, and they went for it there. Like, what did you think of that instance, that use of that call, which AJ said after the game? It's like, we always have that in our playbook, but we don't always use it. What did you think of that call?
Yeah, that's buried toward the bottom of the playbook with like the hook and ladder and the Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty.
They don't do it, but they did it there. I liked the call though, and I don't like bunting. A safety squeeze, I think, is a little better than just moving the runners over. You were trying to score a run, and in that circumstance, like I said, it just never felt like the Tigers were going to hit a ball hard somewhere. So I liked it. It was aggressive. It was a little bit of an ambush. It was using the Guardians' own formula against them. In that setting, I'm all for shaking it up, man. With this magnitude, with a pitcher on the mound who was cruising, with a really good back into the bullpen, I think it was a smart call. I think you just had to do something different, right? And that's exactly what they did. Stephen Vogt said, "Hey, I knew it was coming, though." Basically given the magnitude of the situation, runner on third, you got to get him in. The guards were prepared for it. I'd have to watch the video again to see if a first baseman could have actually made a play on that, but Stephen Vogt stacked his lineup with hitting, right? Facing Skubal, he went right-handed bats. Two of the guys who don't normally play, Noel and Hernandez in center field, both made errors. Very costly to the Guardians today was their defense. A team that prides itself on its defense got a little desperate for hitting against Skubal, and that kind of cost him the game. So a lot of interesting managerial stuff at play. We haven't even talked about the Tigers playoff roster. They are indeed sticking with 2 lefties. I thought Bailey Horn was eligible. He's not. He's still in the option cycle. So more pretty bad roster management to not have Bailey Horn available. But I think AJ Hinch's thinking is very much, well, like, you have Skubal game 1, you're going to get a long start. Games 2, games 3, it's must win. So you're going to pitch Holton and Herter for both. In an ideal world, you're not using a third lefty anyway. It still maybe would be nice to have one on paper, but for the sake of practicality, the guy's probably not getting in the game. So, and you don't have Bailey Horn available. All you got is Drew Summers. They didn't want Drew Summers, so they'll probably be able to get by. Helps that things went your way in game 1. I will be curious. Let's really keep an eye on Tigers bullpen lefties in games 2 and 3, because I think it's going to come into play.
Yeah. So for record-keeping purposes, Zach McKinstry, 771 OPS this season. He lays down a safety.
What's his OPS? It's August 1st, though. It's been a while.
Well, okay. I'm just laying the number out there. Just saying. But also, I would imagine that the trust factor that AJ has for a guy like McKinstry in order to execute that's probably pretty high. I don't like
to say, when you don't bunt all season to execute it in that moment, man, that's pretty big. Bunting's harder than it looks when you're facing guys with power stuff. And you got to change up, which is actually an easier
first pitch.
To bunt.
You don't know what, no feel for that at bat. First pitch. That's the first run that Gaddis had given up against the Tigers this year. So that's what it takes in the postseason. These margins are so small. You know what? Let's take a break, and then we'll talk about Will Vest having big brain baseball IQ there in the 9th inning, and guards ball being denied at least for a day. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Kratz, let's talk about Omaha Steaks, and it's not just steaks. It's chicken wings. It's smash burgers. Big deli style franks. There are a number of categories that you can hit all in one place. They've been doing it for a long time. They're the best in the biz. And if you got a good filet, life's good, man.
But you got to finish every meal with some delectable desserts, too. They have those, too, to go along with these delicious steaks.
Apple caramel tarts on the list, among many other menu items to check out. Be the hero that orders Omaha Steaks and is the most popular person in your household. So get fired up for fall grilling with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Red Hot Sale event. And for an extra $35 off, $35 off on top of that, use promo code FOUL at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code FOUL at checkout. See site for details.
All right. Well, speaking of details, really all we've been talking about today is details that led to, a Tigers victory. And one of the details in that 9th inning, really worked against them. And then, they got the benefit of the tough play for Javi Baez with Jose Ramirez. He knows he's fast, and he's, batting from the left side. So there's a little bit more of I imagine a little bit more of an internal clock sped up, and he makes the throw, and it's, bounces the torque. It's one that he is capable of scooping. He did not. And then what happens, dude? The ball doesn't just go to the wall and, gets in place. It hits off Ramirez, the worst possible outcome there. He gets all the way to third, and the crowd is nuts, dude. It 0 outs. It's Jose on third. Will Vest, you talk about him only excelling in adrenaline situations. That was an adrenaline situation right there. Gets the strikeout, which was very key.
Yeah.
And then gets the comebacker, and honestly, out baseballs Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez overly aggressive down the third baseline, and then, kind of just guessed that Vest was going to throw the ball when he did, and kind of was going to, try to keep the pickle going. Vest did not throw the ball, was able to tag him. In addition, it was quick enough that you didn't get another runner in scoring position. All around baseball IQ, execution, even though not anybody was covering second, but like overall execution there, just like top notch against a guy who had just tortured you, has been torturing you, and that's a situation you were able to get him. I mean, like big brain play by Will Vest.
Yeah, I don't think Will Vest can be the MVP in a game Skubal struck out 14, but certainly he can be the second MVP of the game. I mean, great as Skubal was, he left the game with, a runner on base, and Will Vest had to clean that up in a huge spot. Will Vest, who hasn't had a good finish to the season. Will Vest used a lot of different stuff, though, sliders, changeups. He shook Dylan Dingler in the 8th inning, the 0-1 pitch to Naylor. I think Dingler had called another slider, and Vest wanted to go changeup again. He got him to roll over right to Spencer Torkelson. It worked out. And then in the 9th, runner on third, nobody out, makes a play. Will Vest's old shortstop instincts kicked in. He was a college shortstop who hit like 190. And he played that really well against a smart player in Jose Ramirez. I think the Guardians had the contacts play on, so Ramirez was going. Stephen Vogt, something we've heard AJ Hinch say before, be like, if that ball's 2 feet away in either direction, he's scoring, and he's not wrong. So the Tigers finally got a good break at Progressive Field. That ball was right at Vest. He didn't panic. He made the smart play, got the out, and then you felt a whole lot better because for a minute there, it was like, oh, my God, they are actually going to blow a Skubal start. This would be the 4th straight loss in a Skubal start. He had his A game today, and they might not win, which is why I'm still really worried about these bats. They got to wake up. But thanks in large part to Will Vest, you walk away with a big win, and I think you got to feel all right about your chances of getting one of the next 2.
Yeah, and I hope we don't come across as like not giving Skubal enough flowers. He was outstanding today. I just feel like it was such a great performance. Like we could do a whole podcast about him, but there are so many other interesting things that I want to talk about that, kind of were a result of this game. But just like he was hitting triple digits early, and then he finished with triple digits. He was pumped up. I mean, there's not enough words.
Stuff was up across the board. The velo was up on all his pitches.
Yeah.
He was
he was amazing. And there's an alarm going off outside my Cleveland hotel room, and I think it's because Skubal emergency. Skubal was awesome tonight. But so I want to lecture. It's like we recognize how great he was, but there's so many other things to get to and all that stuff. So I hope we did a good job of giving him his flowers. But looking forward, Cody, we debated on this podcast what to do in a game 2 situation. And we had debated over Diet Cokes at night in downtown Cleveland what to do in a game 2 situation. And the Tigers announced before the game that Casey Mize is going to, get the start in game 2. And I remind everybody, I talked about it last time, Casey Mize in 17-plus innings against the Guardians this year with a 2.08 ERA, 18 Ks, and 4 walks. As you mentioned earlier, the Tigers will be going against Tanner Bybee, who in 19 innings, 0.95 ERA against the Tigers. He's a 4+ ERA pitcher overall, but against the Tigers, he's less than a run. 21 Ks and 5 walks. So that's your game 2. So you heard AJ. I assume you heard from Mize about this situation. I had talked earlier about sort of this is what the money's for, guys. Torque was in there. He has the RBI in the first inning because he was the first overall pick. Casey Mize, first overall pick, beginning of the rebuild. Now you have you didn't play in the postseason last year. Now he has the opportunity to clinch a series, with everything on the line. So, what do you think of the decision to go with Casey?
I think it's interesting that they basically flip-flopped him and Flaherty in the rotation. Talking to AJ Hinch about it, it seemed like they just felt a little better about Mize and how good he's been recently. Not that they don't feel good about Jack, but Casey's been really good his last few outings and wanted to go ahead and bump him up to game 2. I think that's an interesting decision given Casey's going to be starting on regular rest, 4 days rest. He has a 4.94 ERA on 4 days rest this year. He's more than a full run better on 5 days rest, a 3.79 ERA. So especially after winning game one, I think there's a real argument to give Casey the extra day of rest, and now Flaherty's going to have gone a decent amount of time without pitching. So just from the rest and the schedule standpoint, an interesting decision, but you can feel good about the way Casey's been throwing the baseball lately, how good he was in Boston, and how much this means to him too. Like, he talked about not being on the playoff roster. He talked a lot about that conversation and looking at the spot in the bullpen when he learned he wasn't going to be on the playoff roster last year in Cleveland. So he's going to be pitching with some emotion. We saw probably more emotion out of him on the mound in Fenway Park than we've ever seen before. Kind of hope he takes that into this outing. I do think, AJ Hinch is going to manage that game aggressively. If he gives up a couple runs and it's the fourth and there's a guy on, I wouldn't be shocked to see AJ go to that bullpen. But if he's on, he'll also let him roll. So Mize, and Flaherty are both going to be traditional starters, but I think they will have relatively short leashes given what's at stake.
All right, to wrap up here, I just wanted to share a couple anecdotes. Number one, perspective from our friends at DraftKings. Coming into this series, I was looking at the odds. So this is before game one. The Tigers were a -20 favorite to win this series, and Cleveland even odds, to win the series, which means that Vegas thinks the Tigers have the advantage. So take that for whatever it's worth. That surprised me, given division winner, how the Tigers been playing, all that stuff. So just take that for what it's worth. And I assume those odds are a lot different now. And then I wanted to share some things that I heard from the stands, from the Cleveland faithful. After that Jonathan Rodriguez error in the first inning, got a lot of minor leaguer hecklings from the stands about that. The Skubal chants started early and, obviously continued throughout the game. But I think they started from guys right behind me. I think they were the first ones to do it. Again, I was right down the left field line. Some guys started doing Tarik Daniel. So, a little bit of research, figure out what his middle name is. So I got to give him a little credit for that. Some guy yelled at Riley Green that he was, quote, the worst 5th overall pick of all time. Which
factually inaccurate.
which is like a level of detail that I found humorous. So credit to that guy. He also called Riley Green the Easter Bunny for reasons that I did not understand, or I could not hear the context of why, but I, again, found it entertaining. You'll love this, Cody. You will love this. There's this guy who was doing a lot of yelling. He had his kids with him, and his kids were like, "We want to do the wave." And the guy was like, "No, it's the playoffs. We have to lock in."
I like that. He's raising his kids right.
And then I was sitting next to an older woman who was obviously a season ticket holder. Knew the event staff and like all that stuff. And she had a glove with her and leading the chants and all that stuff. And she came up to me and was like, "I'm sorry if we're like too much for you, but we happy that you're here and blah, blah, blah." And I was like, no, I love the passion. She's like, "Well, I hope you have a good day, but I hope you lose." And I was like, kudos, like, great attitude. She came up to me after the game. She was like, "Hey, if you're at the game tomorrow, come see me, come talk to me." Like, an amazing person. So I wanted to give her credit. And then also there was one time late in the game where the Cleveland Guardians batter took a timeout, and I think it might have been the 9th inning actually, took a timeout, and the whole crowd booed, not knowing, thinking that Vest was the one who called time and stepped off or whatever, but it was a Cleveland hitter. So that was entertaining. Even the guy that said we got to lock in, no way. He was like, "Why are we booing? We were the ones who called timeout." So very entertaining from the Cleveland crowd. And we'll see what happens on Wednesday, Cody. We'll see what happens on Wednesday.
We'll be back soon. Well, I'm sure we'll have another weird, wild game in Cleveland to talk about.
No doubt. All right, you can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Cody Stavenhagen, at Kieran _Steckley, at Tiger Territory _ YouTube, Instagram, Apple, Spotify, wherever you are, we are. We appreciate all of you. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.